Hi, Kate here. Hope everyone is doing well. Um, this video will be a little different. It's non-political, or of course, ultimately everything you do is political, but this will be sort of non-political, not directly political. Next video I'll drop maybe tomorrow. I'm hoping to do it tomorrow. We'll be back to the same controversial, inflammatory, but high quality left-wing content that you expect. No, seriously, this video is about dogs, and I am a big dog lover. I've had 4 dogs in my life, 3 very recently, 1 when I was a little kid. I'll talk about this also, and so before I do, I delved into dog evolution somewhat. Not an expert by any means, but I've done a little research on this. Wikipedia can be interesting on this. Wikipedia is kind of useless or really bad for recent current political stuff or historical stuff, but ancient history, evolution of species, they're not bad for a basic introduction. Okay, so dogs are the order, they're mammals, obviously. The order is Carnivora. And Carnivora means meat eater, but not all of them are meat eaters. I mean, they're meat eaters, but some of them are herbivores as well, omnivores. Carnivorans are a pretty wide-ranging group. Cats, dogs are carnivores, as well as bears, raccoons, weasels, seals, hyenas, a variety of other critters. They're carnivores. Carnivores evolved. They've been traced back to roughly about 5 or 6 million years after the dinosaurs died out, which would be, it's about 60 million years ago. A little critter named Niasis. There were apparently there was a large number of species of Niasis or niacin. And they were a tree-dwelling animal, kind of similar to weasel, look like a weasel, largely tree-dwelling. They're believed to be the ancestors of all carnivores today. They, in turn, were traced back to a very similar type animal in the late Cretaceous period, like the end of the dinosaur era, a tree-dwelling animal. There was some tree-dwelling animal, I forget the name offhand, which is believed to be the ancestor of Niasis, who in turn is the ancestor of the carnivores. Anyway, so carnivore evolution, most of it took place actually in North America, Midwest, of which now the US and Canada. Is believed to be climate change. Climate dried out, which was once forest, became grassland, which it is today. Okay, so this forced these tree-dwelling critters to become more land-dwelling, and hunting behavior began pouncing or stalking, different types of hunting behavior. But they've been traced back to this Niasis like 60 million years ago. Okay, so today there are 2 broad categories of carnivores. They are first Feliformia, which means cat-like, and Caeniformia, which is dog-like. The Feliformia are, of course, cats today, tigers, lions, domestic cats, and so on. Also hyenas, civets, marmosets, a few other animals who are actually not cats, but in this category. Carnivore, Caeniformia are included modern dogs and wolves, of course, but also bears, raccoons, weasels. I was surprised to learn this. Seals, raccoons. Interestingly, the mustelids, which are the weasels, also include raccoons and I think some seals, and they're closely related. Anyway, they're all in this Carniformia group, and then, Caeniformia group, and then there are the dogs are canids. And some of the canids have been traced back to like 30 million years ago or so. I'm not sure where they evolved, but back to like roughly 30 million years ago. And let's see what my notes say here. There are some interesting critters. There's one called Hesperion, which was one early canids around 40 million years ago, size of like a small fox. There are Borophagia. There's critters called Borophagia, which were bone-crushing dogs, not strictly canids, not strictly dogs. They were canids. It's a broad canid family. And then there's some of these critters were really, really fascinating. Some megafauna, bone-crushing dogs and dire wolves and so on. They were not quite dogs as we know it. Uh, there's a group of canids called wolf-like canids, which includes dogs and wolves. Foxes are canids, but they're outside of this group. They're not wolf-like canids. And the fennec fox, which is incredibly cute, as I understand, it's not a true fox. So anyway, canids, like dog-like canids, as far as I understand, emerged about 6 or 7 million years ago, roughly 6 million years ago. And they include wolves, dogs, coyotes, dholes, D-H-O-L-E, you often call the Asian mountain wolf, coyotes, a few other critters. They are dogs, basically. They all have, interestingly, they all have 78 chromosomes. They can and do interbreed with each other. Like where I live in rural Maine. There are a lot of coyotes here. You can hear them. I originally thought coyotes were just in the western U.S., but yes, they do live in rural Maine. I can hear them at night, not every night, but a couple times out of the month. Their howls like eerie. It's yip, 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 yip. It's really eerie. And sometimes I let my dogs out to pee, like 2 or 3 in the morning. They get me up, so I let them out. And sometimes it's a little scary because I heard these kids, these coyotes yip, 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 yelling. I have to really be careful. I'm a little nervous. There was one a couple of years ago, a job I had, and didn't have a car. I had to walk back ways for a while I was waiting to buy a car. And I'd walk along the road, main road, but there was a couple of wooded areas, and I'd hear the coyotes howling like they yipping, like they knew I was there. I was a little nervous, but anyway, I saw a coyote about a couple months ago, driving on my way to, well, last year, I saw a coyote driving on my way to work, early morning, ran across the road. It's kind of unusual. They don't really get too close to human habitation. Now, in North America, as far as I understand, all coyotes and wolves are heavily mixed. Like the pure species don't exist anymore. Coyotes and wolves coyotes have some wolf in them, and wolves probably have some coyote in them. And also they all have some domestic dog in them as well. So they used to have coy dogs, but all coyotes have some dog. Interestingly, it's not the other way around. Like domestic dogs do not have coyote or modern wolf in them for the most part. There's some exceptions. Some people deliberately breed dogs and wolves. Now, domestic dogs, we don't really know where they came from. They probably go way, way back. Some theory maybe between 30, 40,000 years ago. For a long time, it was basically thought or kind of assumed that domestic dogs today were bred from the gray wolf. Now, yeah, by the way, all wolves, as far as I know, are Canis lupus. Canis lupus, and their subspecies of wolf. As far as I understand, all wolves are the same species, but there are different subspecies. So modern dogs are Canis lupus familiaris, or Canis familiaris. So dogs, basically domestic dogs, Max and Molly here, like I said, are wolves basically. Until recently, it was believed they were bred from the gray wolf. The gray wolf is genetically closest to the dog, but like last couple of years, DNA analysis and DNA sequencing has really took off. So like ancient DNA archaeogenetics is a fascinating field. It's took off around, it's been around since the 1980s, but it seemed to have taken off around 2010 or so. And we found a lot about ancient human migration routes, and all human groups today are a very complicated mixture of other groups. It's a fascinating subject, and I may make a future video on it. But basically, they've been researching like development of domestic animals, dogs, pigs, horses, cows, whatever, how they were domesticated. It appears that dogs were the first animals to be domesticated. That is, humans took charge of their breeding. How this happened or when, we don't really know. Generally believe maybe it occurred between 30 and 40,000 years ago when people were in the hunter-gatherer stage. This belief came from the gray wolf, but current thinking is that maybe they weren't. That the dogs came from a more extinct wolf group. The gray wolf has dog genes, or largely because of interbreeding, not that it's the direct descendant of dogs, but there's debate. Like you read, look it up online, you'll find like widely different takes on this. So anyway, where dogs came from, domestic dogs, we don't really know. Current thought is that it was a process of self-domestication, like maybe a group of wolves or a human campfire, and maybe people gave them scraps of food, and they gradually developed a symbiotic relationship. Dogs help humans in hunting and things like that. And so gradually, it was sort of a process of self-domestication. There was a couple was found buried in Germany. There was 17,000-year-old man and woman. The man was in his 40s. The woman was in her 20s, and they had a dog. The dog was not, had some dog diseases, because the dog was not capable, would not have been capable of surviving on its own. So implies the dog was a pet, was not a working dog, was a pet, and was cared for by people. It's also a little eerie, this one grave, like 17,000-year-old grave, I believe was in Germany. They were all buried at the same time, which I don't know, might mean the man died and his wife or whatever killed herself or was killed and the dog was put to death to accompany him in the afterlife. I don't know. But anyway, kind of interesting. Also, we found the remains or bones of a dog in, not a dog, but like a wolf-like animal from the Taimyr Peninsula in Russia, northern Russia, and dates back to close to 40,000 years. And it's not quite, it's not a dog, but it's not, it has dog-like claws, like the teeth seem more closer to a domestic dog in some ways. It is believed it might have been a wolf on its way to becoming a dog, but we don't know. It might have been a transitional figure. We don't know. Anyway, this theory is kicking around, which hit pop culture. You'll see memes on Facebook or whatever. Okay, so the dog breeds we have now, most of them were developed in the mid-19th century. 1840s, 1830s, 40s, there was a lot of intense breeding, especially in England. Some dog breeds we have go way, way back, like Dachshunds. The breed is at least 200 years old, probably a lot older. Other breeds probably go way, way back. We know that Chihuahua was bred was used by the Aztec, the Mexica aristocracy. Modern Chihuahua came out of that. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, it's believed that dogs might have been bred several different, created from wolves, like self-domestication process happened several times. It maybe wasn't a one-time thing, and looks like they might have been bred in Europe or developed in Europe several times, but European dogs died out or were swamped by Asian dogs. So most dogs today, breeds today, originate from Asia at one time, probably swamped, but we don't know. There's a lot of debate around this. Okay, so now, domestic dogs, and many came from the 19th century, but some breeds go way, way back. Also, kind of recent years, recent decades, there's been a lot of overbreeding. Like many dogs were originally designed to be working dogs, farm dogs, shepherds, things like that, sheep herding dogs. Now, though they're bred as pets to look cute, and there's sort of a lot of overbreeding, and maybe you'll say the quality, where the dogs are more nervous and skittish and have health issues. Okay, anyway, I have a bit of a cold. I'm not doing too bad. I have a bit of a cold. I've been sneezing a lot right before this video, and my dogs, especially Max here, gets very concerned whenever I sneeze. My previous dog, Cupcake, was like that too. I'd sneeze and would look at me and get very nervous. I don't know. Okay, anyway, I've had 3 dogs in my life. To talk about this a little bit. I'm basically a very private person. I don't like to share too much of myself, but I'll share some things here. First dog I had was a long-haired dachshund. We called Schotze. And a friend of my parents, it was my dog. It was understood to be my dog right away. My friends of my parents gave Schotze to us. Guy, he was an engineer, and he was an engineer. He was moving to, I think, Seattle. We lived on Long Island, New York, kind of a suburb, distant suburb of New York City in some ways. But a friend of my parents was moving to the West Coast. They gave us this long-haired dachshund. We decided on Schotze, and it was my dog. And some interesting. First, I think I had the dog. I had Schotze for, I don't know, 6-9 months. First 6 or 9 months, I thought of myself, as I said to my mom, I take care of Schotze. I feed Schotze. My mom said, no, you don't. I do. And I thought about this for a second. Yeah, my mom was right. So from then on, all the other years I had Schotze, I was with Schotze. I fed her. I gave her water. I took her for walks, and we were inseparable. We were really, really close. My dad, if I remember vaguely, remember when we first got Schotze, she was skittish and I guess had behavior problems, according to my dad. My dad was kind of yelled at her and hit her with a newspaper and bad dog. Like my dad said, he had to do this to whip her into shape. I mean, he did. The rest of that Schotze was really what a well-behaved dog, a very good dog. We take Schotze on trips and sit in the car between me and my sister in the back seat. Most part, I didn't take Schotze for walks. We didn't have to. Where I lived has like a wood lot, two big wood lots, and I would just spend hours and hours with Schotze. Schotze loved to swim. There was this golf course near where I lived, and we take a walk as a family. Sometimes when we had family, my grandparents or aunts, uncles came over, we'd walk around this golf course. We weren't members, but near where we lived. And there's a big pond, and my dad would take Schotze and throw her into the pond. And Schotze would swim back, and then they would throw her in again. Schotze, it sounds cruel, but Schotze loved it. Schotze actually loved it. She liked swimming. She wouldn't go in the water on her own, but me or my dad would toss her and she'd paddle back. Cupcake also loved the snow. She was a dachshund, like a sausage dog. She loved the snow. She wouldn't really go out on her own, but I'd bring her out. My dad would bring her out in the snow, and she'd go boom, boom. It was funny as hell watching. She loved it too. I mean, she wouldn't do it on her own, but when she got in, she loved it. What else? Oh yeah, my dad originally yelled at her and was kind of cruel to her, not cruel to her, but really strict with her. But then they would play with her a lot too. Schotze was a great dog. I would spend hours and hours with her. She would let me do everything with her. We kept Schotze most part in the kitchen, like at night. First, my parents had chained her, but then we had these like sliding doors or sliding gates in the kitchen. She slept in the kitchen. My parents would not let her in my room. I mean, if we did, she would have slept in my room every night, but didn't really let her. And my parents didn't like her licking me. Told me you might get worms, it's dangerous. And I didn't. She did like to lick, she would have. But, I spent a huge amount of time with Schotze. Sometimes she would jump on the furniture. Like when my parents were away, I'd tell her, don't jump on the furniture, but she would anyway. Then when we'd come in, she'd have a guilty look on her face and run back to the kitchen. It's really cute. My mom would go back and forth, for she had a strict rule, Schotze's not to go on the furniture. Then, okay, sure. My mom finally, after a couple of years, yeah, okay, she's on the furniture. And it's okay to let her on the furniture, and it was kind of fun. I spent a huge amount of time. Dinner time. My parents would say, Miss Schotze would always sit under the dinner table, kind of waiting for scraps of food. And my parents would say, "Don't give her anything. Don't give her any food." But of course, I did anyway. I would sneak some meat or something to not get to Schotze. I would sneak some meat to her. And this. I think every little kid who has a dog kind of does that, even though the parents tell them not to. Everybody does this. And it was kind of some understanding. That's like a bonding mechanism with the dog. The dog kind of quickly understands we'll give them food. It was a bonding mechanism. Oh yeah, a couple of stories. One time, Cupcake followed me to school. Like I took the school bus. School wasn't elementary school I went to. It wasn't terribly far away, but a couple miles away. But I don't know how. I don't remember this instance. My parents told me about it afterwards. But apparently, Schotze followed the school bus. I got on the bus and Schotze followed, and school bus stops and starts. So not too hard to do. But anyway, apparently that later that day or that morning, the principal, some people from the school called my parents, said, "Your dog is here," and they got a big kick out of Schotze. They got a big kick out of her, but I had the dog tag and the address and everything. So they called my parents, picked her up. There was another incident. I said we lived next to a golf course. They had some, me or my family never give a shit about golf, but they had some golf tournament, really big tournament there. And apparently Schotze got loose and she started chasing after the ball, and Rick knocked the ball, kind of disrupted the tournament. They called my parents. They got a kick out of it. They weren't really pissed off. Schotze was mostly very territorial, would chase other dogs, small dog, but make a lot of noise, would chase a bigger dog away. My neighbors had this big collie named Paw, and Paw was a very friendly dog, but Schotze would, Paw would kind of go over to our area and our property, and Schotze would chase her away, chase him away, super aggressive dog. I'm not super aggressive, but super territorial. As I said, I spent a huge amount of time with Schotze. I was bullied a lot. First, I'm trans. I was a guy. I was not a boy, and I was bullied roughly from third grade all the way through. Third grade, it was really bad. My parents then put me in like a religious school. My parents were not religious in the least, but thought there might be a better environment than the public school. And fourth grade was good. Fourth grade was really good. Fifth grade, again, bullying returned. So my parents put me back in the public school. Sixth grade was really good. I have fond memories of sixth grade. Then I went to junior high school, today they call it middle school, went to junior high school, seventh and most of eighth grade, and bullying was pretty bad there too. We moved to another part of eastern Long Island, a little further out, further away from New York City, very rural area, and I was there for Greenport, New York. I was there from 10th, so eight, was it? Yeah, I was there from end of 8th, 9th, and part of 10th grade. And 8th and 9th grade, the bullying was really bad, really, really bad. I had like anyway, we moved to Vermont after that, and the bullying was also really bad. And it kind of, this day, I don't know why it happened. I don't know why it happened. Teenage boys, young boys, like where I went to, were constantly probing each other, and I didn't know how to react. I like would either overreact or underreact, or maybe acted different in some ways. And as I got older, it actually seemed to get worse, not better. And life of me, I still don't know why it happened. It happened in 11th grade was actually probably the worst. I was in a one-act play competition. By that time in high school, I kind of was very much in a shell. I hardly ever talked to anybody in school. Last time I had a friend in school was in 4th grade. And I was pretty much a social isolate from there on the rest of school. I hated school. I hated high school with a passion. I was just mostly very anxious for that part of my life to be over. I was in a one-act play contest in 11th grade, and it was really good. It was like therapeutic. It helped me get out of my shell and connect with other people. I had a lot more self-confidence. And then it backfired. I became famous in the school. And then literally kids started taunting me for weird stuff. And there's one incident, like 3/4, like school buses went by with 3/4 of all the students yelling at me. And I felt really, really bad. I came very close to dropping out of school, and I kind of think I should have. I mean, I don't think I got anything very much out of high school. I would have taken the GED or something. I had kind of big ideas of going to college, but high school was horrible. And I'm not a fan of all the American public high school, public education system. If I ever have kids, which is unlikely, I definitely homeschool them. But my dad was a big fan of public education, huge fan of it. He actually wanted me to continue for like a 13th grade. Like I switched schools my senior year, when my parents moved again. And my dad wanted me to continue. Say, if you can stay in school one more year. No, fucking A, no, I hate it. No, I just want to get this shit over. I seriously didn't get much out of it. I could have graduated in 11th grade. But anyway, I had enough credits to graduate. But anyway, okay. Anyway, the upshot of this is Schotze was like, my dog was like my best friend, my only friend from like 4th grade on or 5th grade onwards. I spent hours and hours and hours. I had a friend of my mom. There's a friend of my mom who would talk to Schotze like a baby talk, like some people that talk to dogs, like, oh, good dog. It talked to them like sort of, particularly, a lot of women particularly talk to dogs and sort of a baby talk. And so I picked up on that, and I started doing this with Schotze, an exaggerated version, like, so you're a good dog, you're a good dog. And I'd get home from school, and I spent like hours, and I was rubbing Schotze's belly or walking around with. I was very much in a world of my own. I was very much an introvert. I daydream. I read a lot of science fiction, and I fantasized about that or whatever. And I'd hang out with Schotze, spent hours and hours hanging out with Schotze. Like most boys my age, it was Long Island, was really big basketball country, would spend hours shooting hoops when they got home. I never cared about sports. I couldn't give a shit about sports, but there was huge places where I was growing up. Okay, so anyway, I had Schotze in from 1st grade, I remember, until like summer after 9th grade, summer before 10th grade. And Schotze had 2 litters of puppies. What happens? You had 2 litters of puppies, and my sister and I would take care of the puppies. it was kind of fun. I remember one incident where Shotzi got jealous of her own puppies. Like my sister and I were feeding these puppies, and Shotzi was there. Like we had these little, I don't remember how we did. We had these boxes on chairs, and we would give milk to the pup, formula to the puppies, whatever. I don't fully remember, but Shotzi was watching and started crying. So I tried as an experiment. I thought maybe she was concerned about the puppies, but as an experiment, my sister was with Shotzi, but we'd also have someone else, like my sister would take care of the puppies. And Cupcake was okay then, would stop crying, but she started crying when we were with the puppies and we weren't with her. So what I picked up is that Shotzi was jealous of the puppies, that her puppies were getting attention, other dogs were getting attention that she wasn't. It's kind of interesting, probably a behavioral mechanism, but it is very interesting. I don't remember. I think it was the second litter of puppies. We gave them away to people, friends of my parents, or whatever. And she gave them away to people. We had them for a couple of weeks or whatever. It was fun taking care of them. I'm sure puppies survived, and puppies. And one of the puppies came out. My dad thought it was kind of deformed, and he tried to kill it. Like he took a shovel and was whacking the puppy. And I was, don't do that, Dad. Don't do that. Like my dad was. He was in the Marines. And he was big on like tough love, and he was going to put the puppy out of its misery. And he was like crushing it with a shovel, and I stopped him. And I'm okay. And then, kind of interesting, the puppy grew up and was okay. It was totally okay. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, my dad tried to kill a puppy, but anyway, my dad was a great guy. So apparently, dachshunds, after the second litter of puppies, they develop tumors. And Schotze, I don't remember the sequence, but a while later, she developed these tumors all over her back and her belly. And we had a vet. Our vet, by the name, was literally named Dr. Doom. I'm not making this up. I think he was in Syosset, New York. Dr. Doom, spelled D-U-H-M. Interesting guy, older guy. He, I believe it was in Syosset, New York. And we drive over, and we vet we see over the years. He was at a private practice. Like today, everything is a clinic. Like even for people medicine, doctors, it's always a clinic, or veterinarians always a clinic. Back then, some people had like private practice and much more personal clinics, like impersonal, like corporate, personal. So this Dr. Doom had a personal private practice, and he was an big antique car collector. Would come over and he'd show my dad's antique cars, and they spent hours talking about cars. It was kind of interesting. He was an interesting guy. Anyway, I remember finally I got to a stage like that summer after 9th grade, I believe. Cupcake, no, Schotze was in pain, was sitting under the dining room table we had then, and was crying. It was obviously really in bad pain. I felt bad. It was going on for a while, so finally my parents made the decision to have her put down. We went out to Dr. Doom's office, and they gave her a shot. And I wish I was with her when it happened. I kind of wasn't, stayed outside. They injected her. And then she died. I guess they put her, and my dad put her in a black bag, and it was quivering, it was moving. And my dad asked me to take it out, put it in the trunk. I said no. It was gross, and this thing was spasming. And my dad said he later felt really bad about that. He was, Schotze had been something which was close to me, and now was something I felt was repulsive. It was grossed me out. And then they put Schotze, the remains of Schotze, in the trunk of the car, and we drove back. Actually, it was it was like a 2-hour trip. We drove back to where we lived at the time, and my mom was crying in the car. I was crying. I said to myself, like, well, Schotze served her purpose. I like rationalized it. She served her purpose. I loved science, and back then, science and rational thinking. I said to myself, that Schotze, yeah, she served her purpose. Later on, I thought that was I didn't say this out loud because I knew it would sound very callous, but it was my way of rationalizing, dealing with the grief. Obviously, underneath all, I didn't feel this way, but interestingly, my grief, I suppressed it. Forget the Freudian term. I suppressed the grief feelings. Later on, actually 7 or 8 years later, I finally felt this grief. I finally came to me, oddly, at late college. Long story, I was taking time off. I was going to college part-time, as my parents had a job, and I was taking some classes. I was going to school part-time. And in one period, this was in Vermont, completely different environment. And for a while, I kept thinking about Schotze a lot. Like when I was, especially when I was in my car driving somewhere, I kept like making up songs about it, or making up, I don't know, weird songs about her, fantasy scenarios and stuff. And I really got into this. Went in for like 2-3 weeks maybe. And I didn't know why I was doing this. And then I thought, as if I heard a voice like Schotze saying to me, why are you calling me back? And I felt a little eerie about this, and it was weird. And I stopped doing this. But I think that was my way. The grief feeling after years was finally coming out. Well, in some ways, I allowed myself to experience this years later. Very interesting. I didn't have a dog in my life for quite a while after that, for years after. I kind of wanted to, but didn't really have a chance, or was, not really in a situation where I felt I could have. My parents were not, after Schotze, we had Schotze, was great, but after that, they didn't seem like they were pet people or whatever. A lot of times I stayed with them. Okay, so fast forward, 3 other dogs. Next dog I had was Cupcake, was a Shih Tzu. No, sorry. Cupcake was a Lhasa Apso. Long, complicated story. I worked overseas and in Asia for a while. I came back. Both my parents were in really bad health. My sister was actually lived in Maine. She was more settled than I was. She was younger. She's younger. She took charge of everything. She brought my dad to the VA hospital in South Portland, Maine. He was there for, I think, 2 years. He passed away there. Passed away in 2011. I came back. I came back, and I kind of my sister bought a house, basically, bought a house in Maine. And I moved in with my mom. My dad was in the VA place, and my mom, my sister were living in this house. My sister quit her job basically to take care of my mom. Okay, that's the background. I moved back in. I wasn't sure what I was going to do next. Actually, I got a job at working in a local school system. And okay, so my dad passed away in 2011 in like late June, if I remember. And that was tough. No, it wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't late June. It was a little bit earlier. It was just, during the school year. That was tough. So while earlier, my parents would talk about getting a dog. They kind of talked about getting a bulldog. And they named it Smedley. Now, my dad was an ex-Marine. I fucking hate the military with a passion, but my dad was an ex-Marine. And he had this weird mystical attachment to the Marines. He literally died with a Marine baseball cap. He resigned like years. He was older. He resigned during in protest against the pigs, actually. But he opposed the Vietnam War, and it's before my time. But he was, but he had this weird mystical attachment to the Marine Corps. He literally died, with a Marine Corps baseball cap on his head. Anyway, they had talked about getting a dog named Smedley. Bulldog is a symbol of the Marines. It was named after Smedley Butler, who was a Marine Corps general who actually became anti-war capitalist, interestingly. But my dad sort of wanted to get a bulldog named Smedley. So my parents never talked about this. They never did. Well, anyway, fast forward, my dad passed away. My mom had talked about getting a dog. And my sister and I talked, it was my sister's idea. We talked over getting a dog for a present, small dog, a present for my mom. I thought, okay. So long story, but my sister and I were looking around for a dog. It's hard to find one, very hard, a small dog, very hard to find them. They go for like sometimes thousands of dollars, really hard to find one. But my sister one day, I forget the whole sequence, but I think she told me in the morning she had a lead on the dog. She was going to check lead, and she was going to let me know. And after work, she and I could go over and check it out. And okay, sure. Anyway, at work, I texted her a few times from her work, and she never got back to me. I was kind of puzzled by it. I said, how's the thing with the dog? When can we meet? Did you look? When can we meet? She never got back to me. Well, for some reason, I got back kind of late that day. I don't remember what I did, but I did some stuff after work. I got back kind of late, and my mom was in bed. My sister Barbara was in her room, and I came to her room, knocked, and apparently I saw her. I was going to see her about something else, and I saw the dog. She had a small, scared-looking dog in the corner. And I said, I guess you got the dog. And I was nothing wrong with getting a dog, but I was a little miffed that she didn't include me in on it. And she apologized. She profusely apologized. She said, I had to make a decision right away. And she got the dog after I was at work. Yeah, after I would have gone out of work. I don't know what was going on. But anyway, so okay, she profusely apologized. I had to make a quick decision. And okay. Okay. Anyway, the next day we gave this dog to my mom. And mom got a really big as a present. It was in late English, actually in February, a little while after Christmas. It was like a late Christmas present from my sister and I to my mom. And my mom loved it, loved this dog. We had to think of a name. And their dog's original name was Scrap. And from the movie Ice. Story my sister told me that the original owner bought the dog off this guy who's a roofer who's traveled around New England, fixing people's roofs, something like that. And there's one woman who raised dogs, he did some roof work for her, and she couldn't pay him, so she gave this dog to him like in lieu of payment. And my sister's actually told me slightly different versions of the stories, but Anyway, so this guy had this dog, kept the dog in a barn, like in straw, not really clean conditions. And apparently looks like Cupcake, decided the name Cupcake, was attacked by another dog. There was some scar on there. I don't know what happened. But anyway, my sister showed photos. She and her woman who was her best friend bought Cupcake, bought the dog from this guy and brought it over. Okay, my sister showed me these photos of her and her best friend with the dog. So we had to think of a name. So I looked up cool dog names online. And I was kind of thinking like Fenris, Viking mythology, some name from Viking mythology or Game of Thrones or something. But my mom was eating a cupcake at the time and decided to name Cupcake. There's a lot better name than Scrap. Scrap was a really bad name. So Cupcake, that's how Cupcake became Cupcake. So Cupcake was officially my mom's dog. She was really my sister's dog. I originally was bonded to my sister. Like Cupcake would go to sleep in my sister's room and would hang out with my sister. Like over the night, my sister would check up on my mom. She was not great health, and Cupcake would follow her in, follow her back. It was kind of cute. When my sister would go shopping or something, Cupcake would like cry all the way. Would literally like stand there, jump on furniture, and watch from whatever door my sister went out, watching her to come back. Was bonded to my sister. My sister was a bit of a control freak with Cupcake and lots of other things, but it's kind of a control freak. Like my sister would jog with a friend like 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning, and she would go to bed like around 9. And one night I went to play with Cupcake. Like my sister was going to bed exactly 9, and no one did. I said, "Come on." My sister said, "No, come on, Cupcake." And I said, "Well, can I play with Cupcake a little bit?" She said, "No." I said, "No, I got to get up really late." Well, I said, "I'll make sure Cupcake goes to your room." No, I got to go to bed really early, and I got to be with Cupcake. Okay. And other things like my sister would get uptight if I let Cupcake outside. Was afraid Cupcake would unsupervised would run into traffic or something. Okay, well, I was a little miffed by this. And I remember the next day after this incident with I couldn't play with Cupcake at night. I went to work and I texted my sister. I said something like, I really, having Cupcake make me realize how much I missed having a dog of my own. And Cupcake is basically your dog. You have control over Cupcake. Makes me understand how much I miss having a dog. And I'm going to go to the animal shelter and get a dog of my own. Now, I didn't know if I was really going to do this. In fact, I didn't know this rescue shelter. I didn't know where it was. It's actually, I found out later, it's almost right near where I worked at the time. It's very, very nearby. But after work, I drove around a little, like a half-hearted attempt to find the shelter. I didn't find it. Anyway, I texted this to my sister, and she texted back, well, Mom says, Cupcake's going to be an only child. Mom doesn't want an extra dog. And we texted back and forth. I said, well, okay. And no, my mom, Cupcake is Mom's dog. Mom says it belongs to all of us. I said, well, can I spend more time with Cupcake? She didn't answer me. I came back and my sister was with my mom watching TV, as they always did. And I brought it up a little bit. It was a little awkward, but I brought it up. I said, Mom says, mom says Cupcake's going to be an only child. And then I said to my sister, okay, but can I play with Cupcake after you go to bed? And my sister said, well, we'll talk about it. That's all I got out of her. We'll talk about it. Okay, so a week or so after that, or a couple weeks after that, my sister did relent. She probably talked it over with her friends, and she relented. She would encourage Cupcake to go to my room. And I remember one time, one incident, I took some, my sister had these bacon bits, like dog treats, which dogs tend to like. My sister never gave any to Cupcake, but I did. One night I opened it up, I started giving it to Cupcake, and I kind of gradually bribed her. I don't know how it happened, but it happened over a space of a couple of nights. Cupcake would spend a little time in my room at night, then she'd go to my sister's room. Then this happened more and more. Finally, Cupcake transferred her loyalty to me. And I felt a little guilty about it, but my sister, yeah, it's okay. My sister said, that's okay, don't worry about this. And once my sister kind of lost total control over Cupcake, she lost interest in her. And Cupcake kind of became my dog. I would sleep in my room. I would walk Cupcake. I ended up taking care of Cupcake. I'd go over to the vet. I would walk her every day, usually twice a day, take her for walks. And I know how it happened. We got really, really close. Cupcake and I developed this really intense, close relationship. It's really interesting. I take her one time I went to buy the newspapers. When I was a little kid, we used to get the Sunday papers. I'd love it as a little kid. It was like pre-internet, and I'm showing my age here, but I used to love reading the newspapers. For a time, in 2012, 13, I tried to get back into this tradition, but my mom and my sister weren't really that interested in reading newspapers. My mom a little bit, but I'd get the Boston Globe and the New York Times or something. I was the only person reading it. It was very expensive, and the newspapers are propaganda anyway. I get the news online. I mean, I always keep close track of what's happening in the world, but the New York Times or the Boston Globe or these other papers are mostly crap by now anyway. So I stopped doing it. But anyway, first time I went to get the papers, I decided not to bring Cupcake, and I came back and my sister said she was crying. She really, and I felt really bad. So from then on, I would take Cupcake wherever I went to. And we're almost as much as possible wherever I went. I couldn't take her to work, of course, but I took her just about everywhere else. And we developed these routines. Like Cupcake was a good car dog. She would actually sit on my lap when I was driving, or she got this routine. Small dog, she would stand on my legs and lean out the driver's window. I'd have the window like halfway down. I was always a little worried she'd jump out the window, but I had it halfway down. She'd lean out it, and she loved it. She was like leaning out the window in her face, and she would love it. And people passing by, like slower traffic, they would get a kick out of it. People would honk their horns or wave. Some people would really get a kick out of it. So one guy said, your dog really makes me happy. And everyone liked Cupcake. Everyone liked her. I took her to this pet store. And a young guy said, hey, your dog is really chill, man. You have a really chill dog. It was cute. Well, everyone liked Cupcake. She had this way about her. Really, she was cute. She had a really nice way about it. Everybody liked her. One routine, Cupcake liked to chase after sticks. Cupcake liked to chase after sticks. She wouldn't bring a stick back. She didn't quite throw a stick. She'd run, but she didn't quite get the idea of bringing it back. I couldn't get her to do that. One time she was actually chasing sticks by herself. Like I was mowing the grass behind the house, and there was sticks laying out. She'd like run after one stick, then run after another. It was just cute. Well, we got in this routine. One time I was walking her, and there was this house near where I lived. It was about a 200-year-old house. It was abandoned. It was small farmhouse in the 1800s. It's about 200 years old, which is really old for where I live. And there were like groundhogs or something lived underneath it. And Cupcake would like to chase after these groundhogs, and she almost got into a fight with a groundhog. I have to pull her back. But so she found a McDonald's like soda cup there, and people would throw tons of garbage there. She'd pick up this soda cup and she brought it back to the house. Like I threw it out after she got it, but she was so proud of herself. She brought it into the house, and she was so proud of that. Well, anyway, then the two behaviors, the stick chasing behavior and the trophy finding behavior combined. So like I take her for a walk, and Cupcake's way of ending a walk would be to wait for me to throw a stick for her. Like I could just sense we'd walk and she'd like stop and look around. I could sense she was waiting for me to throw a stick. So I went and get us. I would get a stick. I live in a wooded area nearby where I live. It's a very wooded area. So I looked for a stick. And if I got a stick and I took too long to break it, like prepared for her, she'd get upset. She'd say, really, well, she'd bark. She'd get frustrated if I waited too long to get the stick for her. But I'd get a stick, I'd throw it a little ways, and she'd chase after. And there was a huge collection of sticks building up on the front lawn. It was kind of funny. I'd have to get rid of it when I mowed the lawn. But she had her own stick. She would drop it off at one area. I guess she had her own stick collection that built up. A couple of times she would get this really very long stick, bigger than she was. And people passing by would get a huge kick out. It was really funny, really funny. Okay, so my mom had, my dad passed away in 2011. That was really tough. My mom passed away in 2014 in early January. She made it for that Christmas. She had cardiac congestion, kidney problems, and it just wasn't. And the doctors took her off the medicine. It was really tough. Like the hospice, somebody from a hospice worker came over and told us that expect a rapid decline over the next. I thought it was okay. She has like a year or so or something. But no, rapid decline over the next couple of weeks. I go, shit. That there was the beginning of January, and like, oh, she probably has a month left. I go, yeah, oh shit. Okay, so it was tough. So my sister was taking care of him. My sister was really hired nurses to take care of my mom. And I was with my mom when she passed away. It was like late January of 2014. And I was with her, like say my sister and I pulling overnight. It was like 2:30 in the morning, something like that. And that morning I was with my sister. The funeral people took her body out, and Cupcake was there. I don't know if Cupcake was aware of anything. I know she didn't really react. I don't know. My mom liked Cupcake, but didn't really like watching her, didn't interact with her at all. So I don't know. It was tough. So anyway, my sister belonged to this church group. I'm not a believer at all. I'm an atheist. I'm not religious, but my sister was very much involved in this church group. And so they had this service for my mom, not a funeral service exactly, but a memorial service for my mom. My sister and her friends. And I wrote this poem about Cupcake. Sometime, I don't know, in a week or so after my sister and I gave Cupcake to my mom, we had picked out a name, I wrote a poem about Cupcake. It's kind of a cheesy poem. It's not great literature, but I'm going to read it here. It's kind of interesting. It's called The Dog That Came for Christmas. This Christmas dog has come to you from not so far away. Although she came a few months ago, she's officially here today. Yeah, we gave this to my mom a few months after I wrote this a few months after we gave it to my mom. This is Cupcake. She's the Christmas dog who wants to stay. Although she's come with love and zest for life, she once lived in the barn. It was so full of hay. She now needs her place where she knows she'll be loved. In return, she'll bring unconditional love. So please welcome Cupcake. She's the cutest little dog it can be said thereof. All that she wants is a good home to stay. She's a Christmas dog who has come here today, and a warm mat on which her head she can lay. She likes long walks and her belly to be rubbed. She takes her pills and never balks. She'll be affectionate and loyal and a very good friend. She's very brave and her care is not a toil. What my sister originally would take Cupcake to the vet. She was really good at taking her pills. Most dogs aren't, but so her Christmas wish, of this I know, is to have a good home and a shiny, clean dish. She needs people to love her and good food and affection from weather and wildlife, a degree of protection. And I think there was another section of this which I lost, but so it kind of implies like there's a Christmas dog that came to stay. That there was a little while. The background of this is my dad passed away. This was the first Christmas we had without my dad. And, obviously Cupcake's never going to replace my dad, but it was like my dad's a big loss we had. And there was a shadow of everything. There was this Christmas, but Cupcake was someone who wanted to love you. It implied a choice. The Christmas dog who wants to say, like, we didn't have to accept her. We didn't have to give her love, but Dad's gone, but here's somebody we can love. We can. It was kind of, in a way, kind of sweet. So fast forward, my mom passed away a couple of years later in 2014 in a memorial service at my sister's church. So we made, I made this. Somebody else put it together. I had this printed out. I just read it off. We had this big plaque with a picture of Cupcake here, really during Christmas and Halloween. We put a costume on it. It was really cute. Anyway, so my mom passed away. My sister and I were together, staying together for, I don't know, about another 6-7 months. After that, we had some big fights. My sister and I did not get along, and I'll spare all the details fast forward, but we kind of went our separate ways. We get along better now. We do get along better now. She doesn't watch my video. She's pretty sure she doesn't watch my channel, so I can say this, but we get along now, but we had some really huge fights. Anyway, apparently at one point my sister got a cat. We were still in the same house, but she had like partitioned it. We were in different parts of the house. At one point my sister got a cat and didn't tell me about it. I only found out like months later. Okay, so anyway, my sister moved out. I bought her share of the house, actually. I was with Cupcake, and for a few years after that. And again, I take her everywhere with me, really close to her. I was in this socialist organization and do stuff in New Hampshire. I take Cupcake with me. Everyone, we go to these pro demonstrations or paper sales. We'd try to sell papers and whatever at these events. And Cupcake was like a magnet. I'd bring Cupcake. Everybody liked her. She'd bring traffic. She'd bring people over. Everybody liked Cupcake. One point we were in, I think, Concord, New Hampshire, and I had to go to the bathroom really badly. So I went to this restaurant. I went to this nearby restaurant, and I was with Cupcake. I had someone, a friend, hold Cupcake, but I went to this restaurant. Cupcake hated me leaving. Oh, she was struggling to join me, and I was holding Cupcake. Cupcake broke free and ran into the restaurant looking for me. The people there got a kick out of it. A little dog looking for me. I was in the bathroom. I had to chase after Cupcake. It was funny, chase after Cupcake. It was really funny. Anyway, okay, so at one point, Cupcake got sick. Apparently it went on for a couple of weeks. She had some really bad cold. Oh, Cupcake, by the way, I forgot to mention, she used to hump. She used to hump me. I let her. My sister was kind of weirded out by that, but when she'd bounce up and down my leg. She would go through this really elaborate thing. She'd lick my face, spend a really long time licking my face. And then she would hump, like licking my face, just kind of doggy foreplay or something. She'd lick my face, and then she'd hump me, and okay, why not? No one knows about it, makes her happy. Some people are a little weirded out by this, but it makes her happy. Why not? And she was never spaded or neutered, by the way. My sister talked about it, but we never did. I had some vague ideas of getting puppies, but I don't know. She never really got along with other dogs that much. Okay, so what happened? Yeah, anyway, she was sick for like close to a month, and eventually I took her to the vet, and he gave her some antibiotics, but she never was quite the same. She didn't have a sex drive. She lost her sex drive. She took something out of her. She was still really fun in a lot of ways, but took a lot out of her. And then, if I remember, one job I had to leave her alone for like 12 hours. I felt really bad. I worked for a group home for like maybe a year, close to a year. And originally my schedule, I worked 3 12-hour days in a row. And I tell like Cupcake, I have to pee in the morning and come back, and she was like hiding in a corner. And I felt really, really bad. They changed the schedule so it was a little better, so I could walk my dog in the freaking morning. Couldn't even walk my dog, but I felt bad. But anyway, Cupcake just seemed okay after that. As I said, she got sick that time, and she was never quite the same. Anyway, I don't know, maybe 6 months after that time, she started developing seizures, like epileptic seizure. And it would happen like twice a month usually. She'd really go into convulsions, like a major, like grand mal seizure, and then a little while later, petite mal, whatever they call it, a smaller seizure. And each time it would take a lot out of her. I don't know what was going on. I took her to a couple of vets, and the vet didn't know. He said it was idiopathic, and I hate that term. All it means is they don't know. They didn't know what's going on. Eventually, after I took her to the vet a couple of times, he prescribed something like it was supposed to alleviate the symptoms of the seizures, but it didn't do anything really. It didn't do anything. I had her on this like on and off. It made her very sleepy. It would knock her out for most of the day. Another time, I had her on. I got CBD for her, which I still have. I read that it's supposed to be really good at dogs with seizures. I bought it when it first became legal in my state. The place I got it from was like it looked like a mob outfit. I mean, it was like super high security. The guy, the main salesman, looked like a hitman for the mob or like a enforcer for a loan shark. He had a revolver with him, huge, big, tough guy. And you know, you have CBD for pets. Oh yeah, it's right over here. So I got some. I gave her drops. I didn't know this, but I mean, with CBD with dogs, it's more effective if you give them like an edible, put it in food or something edible. I didn't know this, but anyway, I had her on these drops. It didn't do anything. And if maybe if I talked to someone who's more knowledgeable, did a little more research, I could have maybe done something, maybe given her a more effective dose of CBD. But whatever. Anyway, she'd have these seizures for 9 months. I don't remember how long the sequence was, and I felt really, really bad. I took her to a couple minutes. I stopped taking her to the vet because I knew it was going to be more expensive vet bills, and the vet wasn't going to be doing anything anyway. Okay, so then one day she got to a stage where she would go outside. I let her she was really scared of the water. She hated water. She'd go really far away to puddle, and if there's rain outside, she had to pee. She wouldn't go. I'd pick her up. She's a small dog, so I could pick her up and carry her outside. I did that. And eventually, towards like the last month or so of her life, I'd take her out. I'd pick her up and carry her outside. Really small dog, kind of easy to do it. I'd hold her in one arm and carry her down. It was kind of cute. And then I'd have to bring her back inside. She couldn't quite make the stairs. She used to be a great climber, amazing climber, but she was nervous about walking up the stairs. So I'd carry her, and she got really uptight about me picking her up. I felt bad, but I felt bad. Finally, I figured out a way I could like pick her up and bring her back. Like getting her to come back inside the house would be really hard during this period. So I figured out some way. Well, the last day of her life, actually, I took her to this park, as I did very often. And I could let her go free range, but then I want to get her back in my car. She wouldn't go. And I tried to pick her up, and she ran away from me. And I felt really bad. The driver stopped him. He's very nice. Okay, I'm trying. Cupcake was like running around the car. She wouldn't let me pick her up. And I felt bad. Like, Cupcake, I'm your friend. I'm not going to hurt you. She really didn't want. Earlier, she would love to be picked up. She would scratch my leg. She would love to be picked up. Cupcake had a good sense of humor. She seemed like she had a sense of humor. She'd like this dog laugh. One time, I got a new car, and I wanted to get her in the car, and she started to go, and she backed away, and then she had this like dog laugh, like very funny. Cupcake. She seemed to have a sense of humor. Anyway, this is the last day I had her. She wouldn't let me pick her up. I finally was able to get her in the car, but I felt really bad. Like, okay, I'm your friend. I'm not going to hurt you. But apparently something was hurting her underneath. And the vets I saw didn't have a clue what was going on. I don't know. They were kind of useless and expensive at the same time. So anyway, it was on a Thursday. I think Wednesday I was at work. Wednesday I got up to go to work, and I'd always let Cupcake out. She was unusual. Like took her off. She was at CBD, but I took her off this other stuff the doctor gave me, which made her really tired. But she was like unusually not moving. Okay, Cupcake, you want to go and pee? Come on, I gotta go to work. And I shook her, and I know she was stiff, like really stiff. And I was going to call I got to take her to the emergency vet right away. It was like my first thought. And I thought, well, what are they going to do? She's gone. She's dead. And so I felt really bad. I called and said, I literally told them if a family member had passed away, which was true. So I felt really, really bad. I just drove around. I left her she was on my bed. Apparently dog poop. She shit on my bed. I was sleeping with a dead dog for a large part of the night. I guess she passed away sometime during the night. And I just drove her. I went to the animal shelter. Actually, I wasn't going to adopt a dog right away. I don't know why I went there. I told my dog died, and I sat there and started crying. And I looked at the dogs, and I wasn't going to adopt a dog then, but I just looked. I don't know why I did. Just it was really moving, looking at the dogs, waiting for someone to adopt them. Usually, it's like a 2 week turnaround. It was really moving. The dogs waiting for somebody, family, to adopt them. Anyway, I drove around for a while, came back. I put Cupcake. It was cold. I think it was February. I don't even, it was really cold out though. I put her in a bag and put her under a canoe. I have a canoe and I put her underneath the canoe of the other crew. So I found out later some people put a dead dog, small dog in their freezer, and maybe I should have done that. But anyway, so she was there for a couple of weeks. I didn't really know what to do about her. I called a friend and we talked it over. My friend said, you gave Cupcake a good life. She had a good life. You did everything you could for her. You gave her a good life and it made me feel better. And I took her everywhere. I really did a lot to make her happy, really wanted her to be a happy dog. And I think she was. She was kind of eccentric. People liked her. She's kind of eccentric. Her favorite place to go to was actually supermarket parking lots, as weird as it sounds. I would take her to the Shaw's parking lot. She loved to go around the strip mall. I hate strip malls. I really hate strip malls, but she loved them. Cupcake loved to walk around. I don't know, the concrete, the asphalt. She loved it. And I don't know why, but I would take her around this like Shaw's supermarket complex, Dunkin' Donuts, Shaw's. I'd take her around. I go through 2 or 3 times and she loved it. Okay. I don't know. But anyway, I wanted her to be happy. I did a lot to make her happy. And she died. And I still think about her. Really great dog. I still think about her. Really, we had something special there. She's my best friend. You can't have the same relationship you have with the human, with the dog, of course, but okay, so I didn't have a dog for a while. I have it maybe a year and a half after that. I don't remember. I was definitely looking around for a dog. They're hard to find. I wanted a small dog and really hard to find. I'd go to the animal shelter, sometimes maybe once a week or so, and then look at you have to sign in, but they would let me look at the dogs. And didn't really find anything. They're expensive too. Sometimes they're small. I've had so small dogs there, but they're snatched up really fast. Like one dog, I forget the name. I think his name was Jorge. Really cute dog, incredibly cute. I came in. He was in this area where I think they're preparing them. They're not going to sell them. Not going to sell them right away. Adopt them right away. Right? So when I walked in, the dog Jorge leaned over and positioned himself so I could rub his belly, and I rubbed his belly. And I said, I said he's a really sweet dog. And I thought I was going to get Jorge, and I came back like that evening, and somebody had adopted Jorge. I felt really bad. I was kind of pissed off the shelter. Like, why didn't you? I was pissed off. But it's first come, first serve. You got to go really. I sort of back in my mind, maybe Jorge was the dog for me. I mean, he's such a sweet dog. But somebody else adopted him. I'm sure he has a good life, and that's good. I looked up online. I looked up, there's those rescue things and where to get dogs. It's really hard to find one outfit. This group which brings rescue dogs to Maine. One of the dogs was actually a Chihuahua named Cupcake, but was like kind of a couple years old. I was hoping for maybe the reincarnation of Cupcake. There's this book by, I think, John Cameron, I believe his name is, A Dog's Purpose. He wrote this book called There's a movie based on it. I read the book. It's really moving. It's not great literature, but it's about a dog named Bailey and a young boy gets him during the Vietnam War era. Doesn't go into any history or politics, but the guy grows up with the dog and, and then he goes through dogs several other lifetimes, like 6 or 7 lifetimes. And towards the end of this guy's life, it's reunited with his own. It's really moving. It's not good literature by anything, but I am a sucker for sentimental dog stories. It's one of the few reasons why I'm still on Facebook. There are a couple of animals, the dodo, which is like friendship between animals. There's another one, forget what it's called. There are a couple others with the cartoons really moving cartoons about dogs and animals. So the only reason I'm still on Facebook. Anyway, as I was saying, when I was looking around for dogs for like a really long time, And then a shelter, I saw this one dog who named Max, who was was a Shih Tzu, looked kind of like Cupcake, older dog, and kind of older looking. But I look and I said, and the price is like to be determined, like or something negotiable. Usually they give the price of the dog. Usually it's around $400. But the one dog I seriously thought about was a Lhasa Apso, incredibly cute dog, but was older dog, was not potty trained, and by that I think it was 9-year-old dog. By that time, you're not gonna do. I almost thought about it, but it would have been more trouble than it was worth. Would poop in the house, and I couldn't have that. So anyway, I saw this dog Max, and I saw another dog named Molly, and I thought these dogs related. So yeah, they are. So I asked, could I see Max? I wasn't definitely going to adopt Max, but can I see him? So they give you put you in this room. You can interact with the dog, and they observe how you interact. You and the dog will get along, and Max seemed okay, a little confused, but Max seemed okay. Then I asked Molly, they had bonded. I said, well, they're siblings. They grew up together. They spent their lives together. They're not really friends, but they spent their lives together, and they show me Molly, and they interacted. Max kept trying to hump Molly, and they were playing around like this. They told me, this woman came and told me that the first time they'd seen each other in a while, so they were interacting with each other a bit. And one thing came in and said, they were both the prices, whatever you want to give us. So I said, I gave him like $40, and I basically got the dogs for free, and I took them. I got them. And I signed paperwork and stuff and took the dog. It happened like really quick. I got 2 dogs, and they're with me right now. They jumped in my car, like they knew exactly what to do. They went to my car, and that night they slept in my bed. They seemed to know when my house came to brought them home. They knew where everything was and everything is. They're great dogs. They're still with me now. We've gone through some. I take them to places. They, unlike Cupcake, they love the water. They're both big water dogs. This is this summer and last summer, I was taking him to parks, and they mainly go for the water. Max loves to swim. I mean, he doesn't really swim, but he goes out in the water. Molly doesn't really swim, but she loves to hunt. Like one pond I used to take her to, she loved to hunt for frogs, and she'd love it. And it's a little annoying for me. Come on, let's go home. Come on. It's been a long time. The trouble is with Max and Molly, they don't get along with other dogs. Cupcake didn't either, but Max and Molly are like extremely aggressive. Like, I mean, I don't know why they are. They warned me about this when I adopted them. You be careful. Do you have any other dogs? No, I don't. But they're extremely aggressive around other dogs. They're small dogs and they're cute, but they'll attack. So I take them to a park, like days off. I take them like by 3 times a day, sometimes longer. They insist on 3 times a day. I got to be really careful. I get a little paranoid around other dogs. Like somebody in the park has their dog loose. You have a leash, you have a leash. I'm a little paranoid. Maybe I overreact, but I got to be careful on other dogs. They are very affectionate towards me anyway. Especially Max is really a love bug. He sleeps right next to me, cuddles up. Molly's great dog too. Molly's aloof. Molly's more aloof, not as affectionate, but Molly seems like she's the brains of the operation. She kind of watches over Max. Like sometimes literally she herds Max into the house. Like it's weird. It's interesting. Well, like a couple of times I yelled at Max. Max used to chase after the neighbor's cat, and I would yell at Max. And Molly would then sniff, would sense I was angry at Max, would bite her, would not like nip at her, would kind of push her into the house. It was kind of interesting. Molly was trying to help me out. I mean, it was really interesting. They have an interesting dynamic. They're not really friends, I guess, but they do kind of work together. Recently, I don't know, they seem to have gotten very close to me. I'm not really sure. They're inseparable. They vary a lot where they sleep, but last couple of weeks, they've been sleeping in my bed every night. It's kind of interesting. Right now, they're both next to me right here. And here they are. Here is Max and Molly. They're kind of getting anxious for another walk. I think they know here's Molly anyway. Max is someplace down there. Okay, anyway. Here we go. I hope you enjoy my video, and please like and subscribe. And in the near future, I'm going to have another video with incendiary left-wing political commentary. But in the meantime, stay good. Bye-bye.